The unwelcome states of mind that we're going to talk about today have a sense of irony to them because they are very much modern problems. For example, boredom. It's interesting to me that while we can suffer from working too hard and too much, we can also suffer from working too little, from having nothing to occupy our time. And it's even more ironic that this is something that we suffer from today when many of our ancestors, and even many people around the world right now, do not suffer from this. They simply have too much occupying their time. We are very lucky to have these problems in a way, though that makes them no less troubling to have, because most of us do not have to hunt or farm for our own food. We don't have to build our own houses or ward off wild animals. We don't have to fight against roving bands of raiders. And even many of the diseases, the common diseases that laid our ancestors low or killed them, we now have cures and treatments for. So we want to be clear, these problems that we have, these unwelcome states of mind, are very much a modern and country-specific problems. Or take doubt, for example. Doubt is one of those things that I find ironic because our ancestors, who it turned out were so wrong about so many things, morally and factually, were so certain about their worldviews. And now we, who know objectively more about the world than they ever could, are so full of doubt. And of course, this is partially due to the proliferation of information and an overwhelming amount of information we can find online. And so we find ourselves racked with doubt, and we find this to be very uncomfortable, partially because we, as human beings, value confidence and certainty, and partly because doubt can lead to uncertainty, and uncertainty can lead to anxiety. And if we get enough of that, then it can lead to a sort of paralysis about what to do, what to believe, what direction to go in. And then existential crises, I think, are some of the most ironic of all because we face significantly less actual existential threats than our ancestors did, and yet it seems that we, more than they did, face existential crises, especially among the young, to a greater degree than they could imagine. And this is a double-edged sword as well because, well, for them, they had so much social stratification and gender norms and restrictions on what they could do and who they could be that many of them never really had to ask themselves, who am I and what do I want to do with my life? It was always figured out for them. The path was set and they could choose to walk it or choose to walk it. There's really no other option. We have the fortune of living in a time and a place where we can be pretty much anything we want to be, and where 20 years from now, we will look at people who have jobs and say, I didn't even know that you could do that job. It's happening even now. There are some people that their job is to train artificial intelligence how to write. 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, I never would have imagined that was an option. So for many people, the existential crisis comes from an abundance of things that you can be and things that you can do, where we can derive our purposes. Now, all these states of mind, boredom, doubt, and existential crises, can be very uncomfortable. But just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it should be unwelcome. These states of mind are a lot like exercise in that if you've never done it before, or you've done it but you haven't done it in a while, it can seem daunting because all you can imagine is the discomfort. You don't yet know that it is good for you, that it leads to your flourishing, in this case, your spiritual and emotional flourishing, that it is intrinsically rewarding. So let's start with doubt. Or let's start with, actually, boredom, because boredom can lead to doubt. Boredom is a blessing in disguise, not just because our ancestors didn't often have the luxury of it, but also because boredom allows us to get to know ourselves better. Many people I've heard, especially in my generation, do not like it because it leaves them alone with their thoughts. And I kid you not, there are 1,001 memes with people saying, I would rather do XYZ terrifying thing than be alone with my thoughts for 10 minutes. Whether it's jump out of a plane or put a tarantula on my face, they would rather do something terrifying than be alone with their thoughts. And I always think this is kind of funny because, Well, one, because I grew up initially without any kind of, oh, you can hear me now? Yeah. I grew up initially without any kind of social media, and my mom did not allow any of us to have smartphones until we were in college. So I really had no choice but to be bored and be alone with my thoughts. But I know many people are not like that. And so I've asked them why they're so uncomfortable with boredom, being alone with their thoughts. And I have to admit, now that I've been using social media a bit, I get it. It's because when we're alone with our thoughts, we have nothing to occupy our minds and bodies outside of ourselves, and we turn to reflecting and judging ourselves. We begin to wonder why we said or did that embarrassing thing 5 years ago, why it's still bothering us. We begin to wonder why we can't shake this or that bad habit, or why we can't adopt this or that good habit. Why can we not seem to be the person that we want to be? You know, the thoughts that usually bother us are not simple things like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or what am I going to wear tomorrow at another run-of-the-mill day at work? They're usually problems that are serious in nature. And so we avoid them because they're uncomfortable. But all of these questions are vital to ask, to answer, to be aware of. And I do mean vital because answering them can lead to a feeling of vitality, of aliveness, whereas avoiding them, at the very best, can feel like you're missing something, that you're sort of cleaning your room by hiding the mess in the closet. And at worst, it can make your life feel stagnant, miserable, and decaying. And in my own experience, I've found that there is no distraction too trivial to tempt me away from facing an uncomfortable existential truth. And so, I will avoid getting into the state of mind, boredom, that will allow me to think about such things, as many people do. Now, this is going to sound dramatic, but I think the cost of being uncomfortable with boredom, unable or unwilling to lounge in this state of mind, is the cost of your soul. Now, let me be clear, I'm not talking about your immortal, immaterial soul. I'm talking about the eternal you as you exist. The word character and personhood doesn't quite capture it. This is the you that has existed since you were born. This is the you that is existing right now, and the you that is existing until the point where you leave this earth. We have one opportunity to truly get to know and understand and love ourselves, and to allow other people to truly know and understand and love ourselves. How can we do that if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to get to know who we are when there's nobody else around? And make no mistake, there's an entire economy designed to keep us from answering these questions. It is called the attention economy. Some of you have heard of this. It became a bit popular in the last 5-10 years. This is the economy of apps and social media, of pages and apps that have quite literally infinite numbers of pictures and memes and videos, notifications that are designed to keep you hooked. And we know that to be true now. We know that it's designed to keep you addicted, partially because as long as you are exploring content outside of yourself, you are not exploring content within yourself. And if you don't know or you do not feel comfortable with who you are, you will constantly seek a means to escape yourself into the waiting arms of advertisers, all too willing to sell your attention to the highest bidder. I think that it is vitally important that we allow ourselves to feel bored. And it can be tricky because, again, I'm no exception to this, sometimes when we feel bored, we find ourselves reaching for a distraction before we're even aware that we're doing so. I'll find myself grabbing my phone, picking it up, and opening Facebook or YouTube, and I'll be like, why did I do that? I literally just got off this 30 minutes ago, and I wasn't impressed by what I saw, and yet here I am again, hoping to find something different, and I know what I'm going to find. The cost, I think, of exploring boredom or any unwelcome state of mind is simply not high enough compared to the reward we can get from exploring it. So if it helps Find a day where you detach from your phone. If you have people who you normally talk to and they'll be worried if you don't text them back or whatever, then tell them ahead of time, I'm going to put my phone in airplane mode, and just leave it be. If you need to write something down, don't make the excuse of opening up your phone and, I need to turn it back on. I need to put it off airplane mode. I need to look something up. I guarantee you very few things are that urgent, and you can write it down on paper. So don't squander the opportunity to explore who you are through boredom. Welcome it. And then there's doubt. Now, doubt gets a bad rep because, well, again, we live in a world where confidence is king. Everybody wants to be confident, everybody wants to seem confident, but also, again, there is a value to certitude. There are some things that, frankly, we just need to get doubt out of the way for. For example, if we were never certain about what career field we were going to take, we would forever remain a jack of all trades, trying out new things, but a master of none. If we remained in doubt all the time, deeply, about relationships, we would never commit to anybody. We'd be constantly wondering about what else is out there. Now, I'm not talking about doubt. When I say that doubt is good, I'm not talking about doubt about certain things like whether we're worthy of love, whether we have inherent human dignity. I'm talking about doubt about our beliefs, our opinions, our judgments, our perspectives. Doubt, the same doubt that can open us up to uncertainty and anxiety, is also the same kind of doubt that can liberate us from false or outdated beliefs that are holding us back, perspectives that are frankly just wrong, and from situations that may not necessarily be good for us. So, for example, how many people throughout the entirety of their lives are going to stick with the very first person that they date? Very few people, especially in the West, right? How many people are going to stick with the very first college major or job or career industry they choose? Very few people. And we can view these things as tragedies, and maybe in the moment they are, because it kind of can throw us for a loop, rip the rug out from under us. But they're also an opportunity to try new and better things. Or let me put it a different way. How many of us have ever stuck with a job or a partner that when we look back on it, we knew we should have left sooner? A lot of us. A lot of us. In those instances, doubt is good because it can liberate us. It can set us free. Doubt is also humbling because it acknowledges our natural human limitations. By acknowledging that we don't know everything or even most things, compared to the vast amount of knowledge there is to know in the world, it opens us up to learning from other people. I don't know everything, so you don't know everything, but maybe we can learn a little bit from each other. If you go on social media, you'll find an abundance of people who could use a little bit of doubt in their lives. Doubt about their opinions and their perspectives. But of course, we need to turn that back on ourselves as well. It's like, okay, well, if you should have doubt, I should have doubt too. Because surely, if you're this confident in your opinion, and I'm this confident in our opinion, let's say they're two opinions that can't be both right at the same time, well, one of us is at least partially wrong. As a man named Francis Bacon once said, if we begin with certainties, we shall end in doubts. But if we begin with doubts and are patient in them, we shall end in certainties. This is especially important because, as I mentioned earlier, there's an abundance of information right now out there for us to consume. And there's a lot of confident people out there, a lot of charismatic people out there. But as we know, confidence and charisma are not always correlated with competence. And we don't want to be a sucker. We don't want to allow our passion to outstretch our understanding of a situation. It's not good for us, and it's not good for society. So the next time we feel doubt about something, rather than simply asserting, well, I'm right, and I have to be right because either A, I'm me, or B, a confident, charismatic person told me that this is right. Instead, welcome doubt. Dance with it a little bit. Explore it. If it helps, write down the questions that make you doubt. Do not flinch from experiences that may challenge your cherished beliefs, because you will survive. There is this mistaken belief, ironically, that we are so much our beliefs that if our beliefs are challenged, it is we ourselves who are being challenged. And this is not true. People have beliefs. Beliefs do not have people. Now, there are some instances in which people have beliefs so strong and so all-encompassing that it does seem like the belief has them. But if their belief were to go away, you would still find that there's much more to the person than that belief, and that person would still be there. So we are not our beliefs. I found it helpful when I experienced doubt, when somebody challenges one of my cherished beliefs, to say, okay, let's take a step back, let's breathe. They're not challenging me, they're not disagreeing with me, they're disagreeing with the belief that I have. And if my belief happens to die, I will be fine because I am not my beliefs. Finally, there is the existential crisis. This seems to be especially common in our day and age, and especially among people of my age and a little bit younger. This is one of the more debilitating forms of anxiety because unlike situational anxiety, such as asking somebody out for a cup of coffee or going for a job interview at a company you're really passionate about, this is anxiety about existence itself. What is my identity? What is my meaning? What is my purpose? Just like the other states of mind, this state of mind is better welcomed than unwelcomed. Because sometimes existential crises are really trying to tell us something that we need to know. They're calls for us to get to know ourselves better, to answer questions we've been avoiding. It's almost like a spiritual procrastination of working on our own authenticity. And make no mistake, there is a whole economy full of businesses and entrepreneurs and influencers trying to sell us surface-level solutions to deep existential questions. If you don't know who you are or who you think you should be, they will sell you an answer. They will sell you an identity. Sometimes these are in little doodads. They'll tell you that you're the car you drive, the purse you own, you're the brand of belt or hat, you're the jewelry that you have, the cologne or perfume you put on. Sometimes they'll try to sell it to you as a piece of your identity, not as something you buy, but as something you are. They'll say that you are your political party, that you are your race or your gender, your sexuality, your gender identity. They will sell you boxes to divide yourself. And you, if you are not careful, will buy up those boxes instead of forging an identity on your own. Instead of finding your own meaning and purpose, you'll buy one that is prepackaged. But again, existential crises, though uncomfortable, should not be unwelcome, because these are calls to go on a journey of authenticity, to discover yourself. If we don't get to know ourselves, who we truly are, we could spend our lives chasing the dreams of people that we are only pretending to be. And if we pretend to be someone else and other people accept us, well, are they really accepting us, or are they accepting the mask we've put on? And are they supporting us in our goals, or are they supporting the goals of the person we're pretending to be? I had this experience myself when I really thought that I was lying to myself, I'm going to be honest. I was lying to myself about wanting to be an electrical engineer. That is definitely not who I am. But I was trying to convince myself that's who I wanted to be, and everybody around me was cheering me on. You should do it. You're going to be great. And in the back of my mind was this quiet existential crisis trying to call me up to higher things about who I truly wanted to be. And all the while, people were supporting me, saying, you can do it. I was like, man, imagine if I was honest with myself and with them about who I wanted to be. They would still be just as supportive, and I might actually make meaningful progress in the direction that I wanted to go. So the next time we feel an existential crisis coming on, especially if we're in a spot where we can explore it deeply, and the next time you know somebody, especially young people who are like, I don't know who I want to be, I don't know what I want to do with my life, instead of saying, it's going to be okay, don't think about it, you want to watch some Netflix. Not that any of us do that, I'm just saying. Tell them, okay, let's figure this out. Who do you think you want to be? Who do you think you would want to be if you didn't have to become anything in particular? Pay attention to your existential crises. Pay attention to the questions that come up. Pay attention to the answers you find, and write them down as clearly and precisely as possible. All of these states of mind can feel unwelcome because they are uncomfortable. But again, just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it should be unwelcome. Boredom can be uncomfortable because it makes us come face to face with who we are. But it can also be a great opportunity to get to know ourselves and who we really are. Bless you. It can allow us to reflect on our lives and how we're choosing to spend our time, and then course correct if we're going down a bad path. Doubt can cause us to question ourselves and our cherished beliefs, but it can also give us an opportunity to course correct. Yes, we may have been wrong, and yes, that may be painful, but now we have an opportunity to become more right. It allows us to practice humility and curiosity and moral courage in admitting that we, as fallible human beings, can be wrong and we can grow. Existential crises can encourage huge questions about identity, meaning, and purpose. But this can lead to greater authenticity and clarity about identity, meaning, and purpose. So before you reach for your phone, welcome boredom. And before you assert that you are right no matter what, or that something you believe is an unassailable belief, welcome doubt instead. The next time you think to yourself, I don't know who I am or what the heck I'm doing with my life, instead of pushing that away, welcome that existential crisis. Welcome the unwelcome and see what blessings it can give you. Thank you.